So E3 is upon us once again. The Electronic Entertainment Expo comes around once a year, about this time of year, and it's when all the gaming companies show their latest games and get us all excited to want to purchase them and spend a small portion of our lives playing it.
Hype us up for major disappointment.
Well, yeah. Some companies brought a fairly decent showing.
Sure.
Some companies were horribly disappointing. And some companies, I'm still trying to figure out what the F I just watched.
Process anything?
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to be the 9 billionth video on YouTube to kind of, in a quick way, process what we saw in E3 so far and what we would like to have seen more of and what we're excited for overall. So,
Welcome back.
welcome back to the second draft. Let's just get Nintendo out of the way.
Yeah.
They sent out a notification just prior to their presentation saying that we don't have anything, so we're just gonna kind of rely heavily on coverage of Super Smash Brothers for the Switch. And people are like, okay,
Yeah, to be fair, that's one of their old standards.
it's a flagship title.
It is, yeah.
What
It's a
people-
10 pole is what they like to call that in the biz.
Yeah, what people didn't expect was their entire fucking presentation being 45 minutes of agonizing, pointless,
Only Super
boring
Smash.
details about every single character in Smash Brothers. Hey kids, there's multiple skins for Bayonetta. If you use a different skin and you listen really closely, the sound effects sound a little different. I like Smash Brothers. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to rush out and buy the new Smash Brothers for the Switch. I might honestly just be turned off because this E3 presentation felt like when you go to the movies and you see a trailer for a movie that literally shows the entire plot and everything that happens in a movie. I almost feel like I know everything I need to know about the new Smash Brothers, and I don't really honestly need to buy it because now I know every single minor intricacy about every damn character in the game because Nintendo had to find some way to stretch that out into an hour and then another hour presentation after that first hour. Let's move on.
So you saw the trailer for Interstellar, and you saw Matthew McConaughey cry, and you saw Matt Damon was in it, and now you don't need to see the movie.
Kinda, yeah. Let's talk Pokemon.
Yeah, what about Pokemon? We just watched the trailer, or I guess I should say, I just watched before this the trailer for Let's Go Pikachu, and man, I get what they're doing. It's a marketing tactic, and I do marketing and advertising for a living.
Right, I do too.
Yeah, and I see what they're trying to do, but it's so doctored. It's so apparent. It's like,
it is.
oh, this is a blatant tie between Pokemon Go, which was a weird cultural phenomenon, but also tanked in the most egregious ways because Niantic didn't know what the hell they were doing,
Right.
and couldn't front the server space for all of the people that actually ended up playing their game. And then they realized, like, wait, we don't have the mechanics because we didn't expect people to play it for this long, and oh wait, we don't actually have a game. And now, like, I see what they're doing. They're trying to make some of the mechanics the same in terms of, like, catching Pokemon, and you can do things on the Switch that are familiar for people who maybe got their intro into Pokemon playing
Right.
Pokemon Go. But I feel like gamers, the people that go to E3, the people that buy into the conference and that watch the live streams and then go on Twitch, and they spend half of their day in the office tuning into the stream, they're waiting for the, like, casual single player, like, I'm gonna spend 40-50 hours on this in the next week
Right.
playing Pokemon. They want to play anything that reminds them of Pokemon Red when they first picked it up.
Sure. Yeah. And the one thing this thing has going for it is the fact that it's kind of retro in the sense that it's going back to the Kanto region. It's all the classic Pokemon. But this is very, very clearly, and they've been pretty transparent about it, which is fair. The fact that this is more or less built and marketed to be a way of roping in all the very super casual Pokemon Go players into playing a more mainstream console Pokemon game, so that when the proper sequel, the big one, is supposed to come out in 2019, has everybody more on board, because they want to sell more copies of that, and the best way to do that is to grab an audience from all the multiple pools that they've been cultivating. That's fair. I can very easily see this game is going down sort of like Pokemon Snap, where if you like Pokemon, you bought it, and you probably look back on it fondly, but culturally, nobody really gives a about it because everybody was just waiting for the next big Pokemon game because they want to catch Pokemon and battle them, and that's what it's all about.
So really get excited for Pokemon Obsidian or Pokemon Chartreuse or whatever they end up calling the next one. Like
Pokemon Beige.
I mean, they did it. You're right. They go back to
Pokemon
Kanto,
Beige.
they go back to Johto because those are the familiars. Like
Right.
when you had Gold released for the first time, it's Gold and Silver. It was incredible. I still remember like getting to the end and beating the Elite Four, and then realizing I could now go into Johto, and I was like,
Right.
"What are they doing? This is wild!" And I was even more bought into the game after that.
Sure.
But I stopped playing them after, what was it, like Ruby Sapphire, because I had to jump consoles again, and we just talked about how that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, why
I get
it looks good. The game looks clean. It looks like they integrated everything from Pokemon Go well. They implemented one of the things that most Pokemon Go players complained about, which was battles. You know, you couldn't do battles. You couldn't kind of interact properly with other people that were playing the game. And they solved those two problems.
Right.
So I feel like what this is an extension of Pokemon Go more so than it is an extension of the Pokemon franchise.
Absolutely.
And what they really should be focusing on is the next installment of the proper Pokemon franchise that started with the Game Boy games and has evolved now into Nintendo Switch, which I think is a great next step in terms of like handheld consoles blending with your kind of standard platform consoles. But we're not there yet. We haven't seen the next proper Pokemon game.
You can tell, ladies and gentlemen, between the two of us, which one is the more veteran, passionate Pokemon fan. Yeah. Sun and Moon was admittedly my first one, and I fell in love. I thought it was fantastic. I had an absolute blast. That being said, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee kind of just look like slightly higher resolution, crispier graphic versions of a 3DS game, which I'm pretty sure was what they did. I think they just scaled the engine up, they simplified the gameplay, and it's a marketing tactic. The one expectation I have, and the one thing that I think they really need to do with this game, is not charge the full $60 for this. I feel like they need to realize and market it as being not a true sequel, just like kind of like an appetizer before the main course, which is the 2019 Pokemon game, and charge accordingly. Like maybe like $30, $40 maybe.
I think you're right, but I think they'll charge the full amount.
Of course they will.
And then it'll very quickly slump off in a similar way that I imagine Pokemon Snap did, where it just kind of takes a quick dive, and then people are ready for the next thing.
Right.
And I'm sure, potentially if they're going to stick with the Switch for the next Pokemon platform game, then, they might implement some Go mechanics into that, but
yeah,
I hope that it's very minimal and that they kind of get back to their roots, which fortunately they've been good at in the past, so hopefully we see that a little bit.
And that's literally it for Nintendo.
That's everything.
Literally it for Nintendo. We should talk about Sony. Primarily Spider-Man. And also
Looks crispy.
Death Stranding. Okay, so eventually at some point the global community, society itself, is going to have to just kind of accept the fact that Hideo Kojima is not some weird quirky genius. He's actually just mentally ill, and he's just running wild. They're just letting him roam free. I don't know how you start a trailer for a highly anticipated game with a baby in the birth canal, mooning the camera, and then turning around and giving us the thumbs up.
It's way out there. It's way out there, even considering some of the odd cultural things that we've seen come out of video games in the past. I don't know.
The trailer just made no sense either. So you got the dude who played Daryl in The Walking Dead.
Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus, thank you. Leah Seydoux, I remember her name. And Norman Reedus is walking around in an empty planet with ghosts flying over his head. And he's walking a lot, and he walks some more. And he's got a baby in a plastic bubble attached to his chest. And then the trailer's over.
next year at the Cannes Film Festival.
Terrence Malick and Hideo Kojima just need to get together and just end the planet once and for all. Just rip apart the fabric of reality at it seems and just
Produced by Jared Leto.
starring Jared Leto.
Starring not Norman Reedus.
As the baby. Oh my god.
Starring Jared Leto playing Norman Reedus playing
the baby in the plastic.
Baby.
Oh my god. Let's move on. Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, so I love Spider-Man. That might be my favorite superhero. And his video game career has been filled with ups and downs.
Peaks and valleys, yeah.
The original PlayStation game was very cartoony, a lot of fun, but it was very sort of like simplistic, very remedial. And it kind of went along, just been a bunch of games. Spider-Man 2, of course, for the PlayStation, the GameCube. I think it's PS2 and GameCube. Just knocked everybody's socks off. Because it was the first game where you actually kind of felt like Spider-Man with all the web-slinging mechanics, and everything just felt really good. The rest of the game, the story, the gameplay itself was all kind of really hit and miss. But the web-slinging mechanics are great. And then I felt that Ultimate Spider-Man came along on the GameCube, and that really kind of married the solid but simplified web-slinging mechanics with a much better control scheme and a much better story. And I think that's honestly my favorite Spider-Man game to date. But everything since then has been really hit and miss. You've had like Web of Shadows, which just kind of came and went. Nobody really paid much attention. There was video games for the Amazing Spider-Man series of movies with Andrew Garfield. The movies were terrible, and the games were terrible. And now you've got this new one coming out. The same people who made Sunset Overdrive. And when Sunset Overdrive came out, everybody was like, you guys should make a Spider-Man game. And they were like, we should make a Spider-Man game.
Let's do that.
We'll do a Spider-Man game. And they released the first footage of it a little while back. And I was like, oh my god. Oh, this could totally easily suck and just be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited for it. And a little bit more came out, and I'm like, oh, dude, this looks amazing. I just really hope they get the web slinging mechanics good and everything looks solid. So E3 rolls around, and they show an extended trailer, and they show more gameplay, and that was all fine and well. And I was still like on the fence. Now that E3 has actually officially begun, and people are actually on the floor and they're doing demos of the games in progress and whatnot, we're seeing more of the actual gameplay, and it just looks spot on. And I've not been this excited about a game since probably Breath of the Wild for the Switch.
We have the graphics now. We have the capability for everything to look really, really pristine in the game engine. And I've only seen maybe 25, 30 seconds of gameplay, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It looks like straight out of the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. Like
Yeah.
they just, like the same cinematic value, but
Yes.
in gameplay where you're able to control Spidey, and that's just fantastic.
You seem to have full control again. Like with the Amazing games, the ones based on the movies with Andrew Garfield, the web slinging almost felt like a QuickTime event where you could swing, but you also had markers all over the screen where you could react to those markers and zip to them and kind of get like a parkour thing going on.
Yep, bounce around.
The concept was fine. I wasn't a fan. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel like Spider-Man. The gameplay for this new one looks like exactly what I was hoping for. It looks fluid. You're able to seamlessly transition between actually having full control over the swinging and the physics and whatnot to running along walls and jumping off the wall and doing a flip and zipping on again. It just looks great. The combat looks solid. It looks like Arkham City, but not shitty.
Those kind of things are really tough to pull off too, because to make those mechanics intuitive is really difficult, because it's going to be different from generation to generation or even person to person. But I mean, that's why we're really expecting big things out of games that claim to have flight down, and that was one of the things that I didn't like. It wasn't a takeaway from E3, but what I wanted to see out of E3, what I anticipate seeing is like something incredible in terms of flight mechanics, and the hope was Anthem, and that's just not going to work out.
The less said about that, the better.
I mean, you guys can do your own research into that, and I don't think we'll get into it. Otherwise, we'll go off on some long tangential kind of
separate video.
Yeah, our diatribe, and we don't need to do that. But flight is difficult to nail down. The physics are very difficult to nail down, and when you can do that web slinging wise with a Spider-Man movie, I say movie because it looks so good, Spider-Man game, that has a lot of expectation behind it, then it's really impressive. So looking forward to playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually getting my
I'm
hands on
looking
it.
forward to owning it, hopefully. If the reviews are as good as I hope they will be. We should wrap this up by talking about the things we wanted to see that we didn't see. And we may as well just skip past Nintendo because there's just way too much to talk about regarding Pokemon and Animal Crossing and Metroid and really anything other than Super Smash Brothers
Microsoft.
Ultimate.
We didn't talk about Microsoft.
Okay, we can talk about Microsoft. What do you got?
The only thing I ever really look out for in terms of Microsoft is Halo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Halo Infinite, wasn't keeping major tabs on it. I played Halo 5 quite a bit multiplayer, and I've played every Halo game before that, except for Halo Wars because the strategy-based thing I didn't buy into it.
Yeah.
But what we want to see is gameplay, and what we're seeing is engine material. We're seeing like cutscenes and bullshit. And I just want to see gameplay. I want to see what kind of guns I can get and how I can shoot them, and that's it. Like, I want to know what's going to give me the leg up when the beta drops and I can play.
Speaking of which, that's an excellent segue into Cyberpunk 2077. So, for anybody who has been living under a rock for the past half a decade, CD Projekt Red, the makers of the Witcher series, they released back in 2013, I want to say, this very cool but very brief and very mysterious teaser trailer for Cyberpunk 2077. And it's been literally 5 years without a single bit of information or anything whatsoever. And they drop an in-engine movie on us, this E3. Still no release date, still no gameplay, still no nothing. And I'm terrified it's going to be another 5 years before we learn anything more.
It's weird because with the engine, what people argue, and if we get arguments for this, it's going to be that you can kind of pull specific elements and you can kind of speculate a lot more based on what you see with the engine footage.
Sure.
And you can kind of get that a little bit with Cyberpunk 2077, but there isn't that much. Like you get maybe like a little bit of an open world sci-fi city vibe, which would be cool. You get a little bit of what the characters would be like and what interactions might look like.
Sure.
Or what a cutscene might look like.
Yeah.
But you don't get anything about gameplay, what your object is, who your character truly is, or what the story is. I guess that's the point, is that you don't want to tell a story, but you don't get anything.
Right.
Like the benefit in my favorite parts about E3, but the benefit of showing it to your audience is that you get them hyped about the actual gameplay, about having the controller in their hands and manipulating this character to do and accomplish some specific goal. And when you can't show your audience that, then you're failing on some fundamental level that people are going to be somewhat interested because it's just an extended trailer, but you're not giving them what they actually want. You're not showing us anything that we want to see.
And that leads me to my next topic of conversation, which is Elder Scrolls 6 from Bethesda. How long has it been? It's been 7 years since Skyrim was first released. And Elder Scrolls Online has shown up, and it's been very successful, and it's honestly a lot of fun. And they've re-released Skyrim on various platforms about 47 times now. And this E3, at the end of their presentation, Bethesda decides to show a very brief, very pretty, very quick intro teaser trailer for Elder Scrolls 6. And that's it. And then Todd Howard goes up and does an interview the next day, and he's like, yeah, it's in pre-production. We haven't actually even started making it.
We haven't done anything for it yet.
It's been 7 years, and you're telling us you haven't even started making a game that you've just like overloaded the internet with hype for. And what that means is the game is still probably at least 4 or 5 years off.
And they don't know what to do with it.
Agonizing. I remember growing up and looking forward to E3 because I would see all the games that were going to come out this year. I would just be glued to the internet all of like that entire week in May or June, as it is now, and just be glued to the internet, just seeing all the games that were going to come out that Christmas, and just be super effing hyped over all the games I was going to, beg my parents for that Christmas. And now it's like, wow, I can't wait to play that game in 2024.
5-6 years, yeah.
Like Bethesda and CD Projekt Red, like, I appreciate the effort, but you guys are almost better off just not even talking about these games until like they're ready to go.
Ready to roll out.
Until you've got something solid to show us.
And that's what I don't understand is that from a marketing standpoint, to me, it would be best to use E3 as like your hype tour. Like you've got the game, it's ready to roll.
That's the way it used
like,
to be.
Let's make this happen, and then you go out there and you're like, you do what Apple does, and they're like, we've actually got a product to show you, and
look under your seats. Here's an iPhone.
Yeah, here are all the really cool things that you didn't have in the last game, and that you've been asking for. You said this, we gave you this. And then further than that, we gave you this, and it's not all that hard. It seems like just make the game that you want to make the game that you're all passionate about making, and then get your marketing team behind that and put them out on the stage and say, you want to get hyped, and let me give you a reason to get hyped. Here you go.
And you don't have to wait 6 years.
Yeah, don't wait 6 years. Wait 6 months.
The gaming industry has become incredibly weird, and I feel like this as a closing thought from me. This E3 in particular just shows what a weird, bizarre industry the games industry has become. People just going out of their minds, being absolutely hyped for 4 minutes of video for a game that still is years away from being available. And Nintendo, my God, like all Nintendo brought to E3 was Smash Brothers and Mario Party and a remedial Pokemon game. Like, is this 2001?
Well, you know what it seems to me like is that it's kind of like a false positive for them, because now we have more access to communication via the internet. We have more access to streams because of things like Twitch, and so what must be happening is that these marketing folks are coming back to their respective companies and saying, yeah, we saw more people tune into our broadcast than double the people last year and double the year before that, because more people are just tuning in because they have the ability to,
Right.
and then they're getting the searches because they're saying like, why did Nintendo only release Super Smash? Where's this and the other game that I want? And there's this whole perception,
No publicity is bad publicity.
Right, like the idea being that people are still searching for them, people are still interested in the companies, but all those search queries, I guarantee it, if you looked into it, they're bad. They're not people saying I'm really stoked for this game. People in Twitch channels are not saying like, wow, this is incredible, I'm really hyped. They're saying, why did I tune in and like zone out for 45 minutes at work to listen to Nintendo say, and we're gonna have this character that you remember and this character that you remember.
Look at Donkey Kong's new facial animations.
And Mario has the same upbeat that he's had for 5 games. But it doesn't seem like that hard of a transition to make that work.
It really felt like Nintendo was like turning a corner and doing something different and kind of understanding a little bit more what their consumers want and what they should put out there. And this E3 showed us in a lot of ways that we're gonna have a really kick-ass Zelda every couple of years. And that's about it.
They're really relying on their tentpoles because they're putting a lot of stock into the edgy stuff like Nintendo Labs, and I'm sure it's not panning out. And they're not seeing the results that their marketing team is like, we focus grouped this and it was great because we gave kids cardboard to play with, which for the last however long cardboard's been available, kids have been making fun stuff out of cardboard. Like, they know what to do with that, but give them a pretty crappy Pokemon game that they vaguely remember from Pokemon Go or they vaguely remember from the Game Boy games, and they don't quite sync up with one another. They're not going to know what to do with that.
No.
I've been playing Pokemon games since I was like 6 years old, and I wouldn't know what to do with.
You were
with the Switch
flabbergasted when I showed you the video for Let's Go Pikachu.
I did play Pokemon Go. I played both. I've done both, and it just looks so weird. It looks like the most bizarre crossover.
Yeah.
You can't. We talked about this in the last video. You can't put those flavors together and just expect them to work because they were powerful on their own.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So not to say that E3 was a complete failure, but it could have been a lot better.
And it's still going on. I mean, for me, the keynote presentations are always kind of lackluster. Sometimes they're just boring and pointless like Nintendo's. Sometimes they're just an absolute cluster that make no sense and everything falls apart like Sony's. But for me, the real meat and potatoes of E3 is all like the journalists and all the people going out on the floor and actually getting a hands-on look at the games, actually having a chance to play them and then reporting back.
Mm-hmm.
like Spider-Man. I'm biting at the chomp to read first impressions of actually holding a controller in your hand and playing Spider-Man and seeing how it feels. I'm even hopeful that maybe like my perception of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee will change once people have actually had an opportunity to sit down and play it and tell us if it's actually worthwhile.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to as far as EC3. Next E3, goddamn, I just want to see some actual video games and not cinematics and promises and title cards of games that won't be coming out for the next half a decade or so.
Just hope that they can take the audience feedback and do something with it pretty quick. Like these game studios have their ear to the ground when it comes to their communities because it's so vital to the success of the games. But like as if you showed me the Let's Go Pikachu game when I was 8 years old, I would have been like, this is the future. Oh my goodness, I believe this. This looks fantastic. But now there's much more potential, and we want something different.
It's just more and more we see
those
something
people
come out of
grew up,
Nintendo, and the question we ask whenever Nintendo releases something is, who's this for?
You'd think that would be one of the first questions that they ask in the room.
You would think
when
so.
they start writing the game.
Oh.
But yeah.
Anyway, that's enough ragging on Nintendo.
You're right, and I'm curious, and this is where influencers become a little bit more valid. Is that there are people on YouTube that you want to follow that are going to be doing legitimate reviews of these things because they're on the floor, they're playing the games. They can have a little bit of a conversation with the developers or whoever's there to properly market the game. Those same people that have played it for a little bit and have been involved potentially, and know the ins and outs. So
right.
We'll hear within the next few weeks, 2 weeks probably, everything that we need to know in E3.
Hopefully.
And see what all actually panned out and what didn't.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's about it for us. So thanks as always for tuning in, listening to us ramble on about once again, the 9 billionth video talking about what the hell Nintendo was thinking this time around, or what's mentally wrong with Hideo Kojima, and what sort of medications he should probably look into.
That's it.
Thank you as always for joining us. Let us know down below in the comments what you think about E3 in general.
What game you're most excited for.
What your thoughts are about naked babies giving you a thumbs up and then strapping them to your chest and wandering around a planet with the lady from the James Bond movie.
Or if you don't want to do that, comment with your favorite Spider-Man game thus far.
Sure, that'd be fun too. Let's do that instead.
Because we are looking forward to that, and there were some I don't know, diamonds in the rough in this keynote kind of soiree that we saw at the beginning of E3. So.
Yeah. Or if all else fails, just give us more shit about Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. We'll see you guys next time.